So today, let's talk about some of the harsh realities about being a stacker and really who the value of being a stacker really benefits. Now, again, stackers come from the wide range of different financial situations, incomes, everything that you could possibly imagine. But is it more beneficial for some than others? That's what I want to talk about today. So first and foremost, if you're like a normal stacker, most stackers I would say generally just normal run-of-the-mill people who dollar cost average, buy what they can when they can, not typically going full throttle into silver, gold, that kind of thing right out the gates. It's more of a progression. You start with a few ounces and you kind of build from there. That probably describes the vast majority of stackers. That being said, in this environment, especially post-pandemic, you hear so many different people that say, hey, I'm way up on my stack. My stack is worth a heck of a lot more than I paid for it. But you have to ask yourself, again, everything in context. A lot of that stuff is misleading when you really think about it. Well, how could it be misleading? I'm up, aren't I? Yes, you absolutely are. But again, take it into context, the whole, situation, the whole environment that we're in. Everything is up. Everything is more expensive than it was. So is silver and gold, really the catch-all that people make it out to be? That's the question. I mean, look at the environment that we had after 2020. Again, right off the bat, in the beginning of the pandemic, silver and gold fell in price pretty substantially right off the bat. Just like stocks, just like crypto, everything else. They lost value. But then on the flip side, silver and gold, again, like stocks, like crypto, took a huge jump from where it was. Massive jump. Now, is it the same as, let's say, something like Bitcoin? Nope. Bitcoin went from a low of 3,500 up to 60,000 plus. So it's far more substantial gains. Even now, it's still $30,000 plus, or actually, it's in the high 20s because of the downturn lately. But again, with crypto, what do you have to deal with? You have to deal with fees, trading fees, and things like that, and potentially a lot more volatility. Now, same thing with stocks, right? Stocks, you really don't have trade fees anymore. So if you're picking things like index funds or individual equities, you're not even dealing with that as far as cost. Where does that leave gold and silver? Gold and silver, right off the bat, you're dealing with premiums, an ever-shifting spot, and then, supply issues depending on what it is you're actually looking for. But what's the benefit there? What's the cost value? What's the cost benefit analysis on something like that? Well, the big thing is, again, because there is that premium, who does it really benefit? It benefits people who can afford to buy large quantities of metals. Whatever the lowest premium that they're offering, that's the person who's really making out. But does that incorporate or encompass the vast majority of stackers? Nope, it doesn't. The reality is that it actually burns the vast majority of stackers because, especially online purchasing of bullion, the big thing is right off the bat, 1 through 10 or 1 through 20 is the highest price that they offer. Now, depending on how you pay for it, obviously you can get a little bit of a difference there, but not huge. The biggest value in stocking is if you're able to throw tens of thousands of dollars at anything, at any particular type of bullion at a time. So if you're able to buy 100 plus eagles, well, obviously you're going to get a much better price than the guy who buys just a couple. But again, looking at the stacking community, the vast majority of stackers buy over time and buy in small increments. So they're really the ones who pay the bulk of premiums. It's kind of crazy. And so you have to ask yourself, who is that really benefiting? Well, first, it's benefiting the bullion dealers right off the bat. They love that. And secondly, I mean, even for somebody who's well-to-do, that has the money to be able to be purchasing that kind of thing, is it beneficial to pay that much of an upfront premium for something you can hold? Do you think that really wealthy people, not talking about, wealthy is a relative term, right? It can mean anything. It can be somebody who has 6 figures to 7 figures or 10, multiple 7 figures. There's different levels, billionaire, all kinds of different things, levels of success, I guess, financial well-being. But at that point, are they really, going to fall for slogans like be your own bank? Or probably not, right? Probably not. Now, they may have exposure to things like metals because of, again, just a diversified portfolio, but it's not the same value proposition that you get sold as like an individual stacker. Like, hey, you're off the grid, it's your own thing, be your own bank, you don't hold it, you don't own it, all these different slogans that they're selling to the common man. But again, the common man's the one who pays the price for all of those slogans. You're the one who holds the whole system up. In fact, I would say that from the bullion dealer standpoint, you're exactly the target market. The people who aren't going to take advantage of the huge, institutional style buying, monster box at a time, few monster boxes at a time. While I'm sure they love that business, I mean, who doesn't? But again, the profit margins are probably higher on the mass affluent, which is just the normal people who have the money to be able to spend on it. Now, the term mass affluent will be actually more well-to-do people, not just like poor people, for lack of a better way of explaining it. But poor people, just like a lot of other things in life, they kind of bear the brunt, the burden, the heavy lifting of, paying for something that really doesn't value them. So the question is, does it make sense if you're poor, or if you have very little as far as disposable income, to be putting your money into precious metals? I'd say no, right off the bat. Absolutely not. It makes zero sense. Except if you're using it as a savings vehicle and you know your tendencies, in other words, to spend that money. Yes, in a weird way of looking at it, really, like with a, less affluent client, someone who doesn't have, funds, is it really worth it to you to pay 20% premiums on something to basically stop yourself from spending that money on, disposable things? Maybe if you end up with more at the end of the day, basically if you're paying 20% of your money up front just so that you don't go blow that money on food and, whatever it is that you blow your money on, maybe there is value to having things like metals. But as far as like an investment and growing it, not so much, especially because, like I said, on the front end, you're paying the highest percentage to be able to do it. Now, if you're buying from a coin shop, that's different, and you're lucky, and you should take advantage of that. Because in the coin shop, again, it's a completely different business model. Their model is that the silver comes in and it needs to go back out. It doesn't have to have the highest markup. They're not planning on sitting on it for ages. They're planning on getting it back out the door. It's a volume game. Whereas the bullion dealers, they can, let price rise and fall. They can take things off, off of their websites to kind of hold on to it if the price isn't right. They can do all these different things. They can just leave their prices as is and just, only the suckers are going to buy it. The coin dealer, it's a little bit of a different value proposition because they may not have that flexibility to wait 10 years, for, obviously it wouldn't be 10 years, but a year for, a certain item to go back in price so that they can, make whatever they want off of it. These are all the different things. I mean, it is really a complicated environment, and it won't always be like this. Again, this time frame post-pandemic has been relatively short-term time-wise. I mean, it's been a few years, and we have seen, little jumps, little rise in spot where people get all excited, but then it just comes back down to earth again. And that's probably going to be, what it is for the foreseeable future. So, when you're getting pressured to buy precious metals, silver, gold, you're not going to be able to get your hands on it. BS. Be prepared to call BS. Because again, that target market, the people who really don't have the money to spend on that stuff, are exactly who they're trying to get to spend money on that stuff. And they are the ones who end up suffering.